Good morning and welcome to the show, and thanks for waking up with us today. This morning I have a very interesting person here in the studio in the way of Trina M. Ward. Trina is a local author who's written many books that have familiar sounding names, like Sandy Creek is one, The Martin House is another, and of course her most recent work, The Dozier School for Boys. Trina, welcome to the show. Thank you so much.
It's great being here.
Yeah. I think I talked with you earlier before the show about, these local landmarks are very familiar to people who have grown up here, and even transplants like myself, know what the Dozier School for Boys was all about.
Right.
Now, this book is not necessarily nonfiction, is it?
Not most of it.
Mm-hmm. So what have you done there, where you've taken fiction, I suppose, and injected it into a story?
Right. I read a particular interview with a gentleman that was actually at the school, and he did live. And I don't know, something about it just made me want to write. Mm-hmm. I didn't really tell his story, but it gave me the push to get the story out there, whether it's fiction or not. Mm-hmm. It'll make people aware that the school, it actually existed and things did happen.
So it sounds like a fascinating read, and I can't wait to read it myself. So it's really, there are truthful segments and parts of this book that have kind of inspired you to write a novel, I guess, around that. Right. And if you'll just allow me just a minute, this is just, I read the flyleaf earlier, and you guys might want to hear this as well. Many will never know what truly happened at the Florida Reform School, notorious for its abuse on those who were sent there. It has been brought to paper, and some deny that anything at all ever happened. You cannot deny the bones and DNA. Trina M. Ward has brought you to a believable story based on true life events. So it's basically a story based on true life events, and you've taken some literary license with that, I suppose.
Correct.
Now, what is the story about? Is it about one particular person who went there, or a series of people?
It involves one particular boy who was sent there. Back in the day, you really didn't have to have a reason to be sent there. Mm-hmm. I learned in researching that some of the boys were sent there because they simply had no home. They were orphaned, and when you get to a certain age, really no one wants to adopt a 10, 12-year-old.
Or you're a youngster who has a brush with the law.
Right. Mm-hmm. Simply smoking at school, or, you threaten your kids, we're going to send you to the Dozier School, and that usually,
Wow. So it really was an old-time reform school. Mm-hmm. And I know for people who haven't been following the story, they have actually found some unmarked graves out there where some boys actually died out there back in the day. Now, how long was that school around for?
It closed within the last, I think, 5 to 7 years.
And it opened
early 1900s.
Early 1900s, around the turn of the last century, I suppose.
From what I found out, it actually did its job in the first part of the years that it was open. Mm-hmm. But new management, things started happening.
As time went on, things started to fall apart. Mm-hmm. We've got to run off to the local weather. On the other side of that, I want to talk about some of your other works as well. And I know this is going to make a great movie someday, and I know you're working on a screenplay too, and I'm excited about that. We'll be right back with Trina M. Ward, the author of The Dozier School for Boys. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with local author Trina M. Ward, who is the author of The Dozier School for Boys, a great new novel based in fact with a lot of flourishes and literary license around it.
Right.
Now, you're a local. You've grown up here, so you're very familiar with these landmarks, and that's what's really kind of piqued my interest in it all. I mean, what all is the Martin House about? Because I've been to the Martin House. It's a historic home right here in McKenzie Park.
I want to go in there.
Yeah.
It's actually in Springfield.
Oh, is it really?
Right.
Okay, that's a different. Oh, the Martin House. I got it mixed up with the other house by McKenzie. I know that house. The Martin House is by the mill, right? Yeah. Now there's actually some legends around that as well.
Yes.
That it may be haunted and all that stuff.
Right.
So that's an interesting read. And of course, Sandy Creek. Everybody's heard of Sandy Creek. Now this looks like it might be some sort of murder mystery.
It is very much a murder mystery.
Uh-huh.
That one is actually, there's a 3-part series, but they can be read on their own. Both were told different angles, but there's a character that travels through the books. My mom told me a story about the Martin house, her actual encounter there.
Oh my.
And my dad told me.
So that's sort of a story of the paranormal then, the Martin house?
Paranormal, suspense, thriller.
Interesting. Now, what inspired you to do all this? I mean, now you have a regular day job.
Correct.
You're not a full-time author. You actually do it as a passion.
Right.
What inspired you to do all this?
I was just having a conversation with someone that is a local author as well, and I told him, I was like, you know, you should really write about the Martin house. Well, it's not his type of genre. And after about the umpteenth time, he said, well, why don't you write about it? And I had no reason to say, I don't know why I don't write about it.
Yeah.
So I just sat down and
started writing. Do you have any formal training as an author, or you just kind of?
No, I mean, I've had an article in the newspaper and on couple magazines.
So you weren't a journalism major or anything like that. You just all comes out of your heart.
Right. I've always loved to write, though.
Well, that's good, and I think everybody's got a story in them as well. Now, the Dozier School for Boys, which is your most recent work, you say you're working on a screenplay for this as well.
I've went through it about 15 times now.
Oh, have you?
I'm in contact with a producer from Los Angeles that's been giving me a lot of pointers, and it's very hard to separate telling a story and showing the story. So that's the problem I'm having right now. So.
Well, it's very true. And you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, the book was better than the movie,"
and it is.
But that's what you want to try to avoid, because you want to tell that story visually as best you can.
But you have to pick approximately 10 scenes from your book, because or it'd be like a, 8-hour movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to pick what you don't want to show.
Yeah.
So
you got to put your best stuff up front too.
Right.
To kind of grab people. I mean, it's a whole different format for storytelling, I would imagine.
Well, I can promise you that every book that ends, no one guesses what happens, because I don't even know until I get there.
So it's always it's a surprise ending even for you.
I've been hit. I've been hit.
Trina, if somebody wants to get one of your books, how do we do that?
It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, e-reader as well as paperback. I don't know if I can plug where I'm having my signing.
Sure, of course you can.
June the 6th, I will be at Starbucks on 23rd Street with all my books available. And meet and greet, book signing. They'll be, doing samples of coffee and things like that.
And of course coffee, because if it's at Starbucks, you have books, coffee, which is a very cool environment, which I like quite a bit. Trina M. Ward, local author, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It was my pleasure.
And good luck to you with the screenplay and all the great works that you're doing here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And we'll be right back.
Welcome to Time Tack Tuesdays. Check out what I have for you this week.
Have you ever had those nights where you just keep tossing and turning and can't seem to fall asleep? For this hack, all you need is honey. That's right, the natural sugars found in honey raises our insulin level slightly and allows tryptophan, that compound famous for making us sleepy after eating Thanksgiving dinner, to enter our brains more easily. Taking a spoonful of honey before bed can help you get a restful sleep. Have you ever vacuumed and it smells like burnt dust? Well, that may be because you need to empty your bag on your vacuum. Or maybe it's because you don't know this hack. All you need to do is take perfume, spray it onto a cotton ball, spray it so you completely coat it, and then stick it inside a clean canister or clean vacuum bag. This will help spread the scent of your favorite perfume as you vacuum your house. Thank you so much, Karen Arias, for sharing this hack with us. There are many times when we don't want our door latch to lock. So how do we prevent this? It is easy. With this hack, you just use rubber bands. This is great if you're bringing in large loads of groceries. All you do is connect it to the back end of the doorknob and swing it and connect it to the front. You may need to use a few elastic bands to make sure there's enough pressure on that door latch to prevent from locking you out. It's as simple as that. And now it's easy to bring in those groceries and not need an extra hand to open the door. There's nothing worse than having a dull knife and needing to cut something. Well, here is a quick hack for that. Just take the edge of the knife and do circular motions on the bottom of that coffee mug. This will help sharpen it. Do it to both sides, and then also make sure you do some long strokes. Doing this a couple times to both sides will make that knife good as new and sharp again.
Thank you for watching Time Tack Tuesdays. If you have a hack that you want to see me do on this show, just email them to me at timetacktuesday@gmail.com. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here talking with Dr. Stephen Favaloro, and you're just coming in on a pretty good conversation.
Yeah.
Always good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We were talking about the pet lemon law.
Yes, sir.
During the break, and maybe we kind of recap our conversation.
Yeah.
Just like people are familiar with the lemon law, if you buy a car,
correct,
and it's a lemon, you get to bring it back.
It's just that easy.
Yeah, it is that easy. But there is a law.
Correct.
But there's something similar for pets, for dogs.
And it's interesting because a lot of people don't know about this law. And even if you look in the paper under pets, this law is actually this is placed in that sale part for people to know. But the lemon law is a law that was put out to protect the consumer from buying pets that were either misrepresented or had congenital or hereditary defects or sick.
Okay, so if you buy a puppy of a certain breed that you really like,
it doesn't matter the breed.
And I got to tell you that, that's true. I guess it doesn't matter the breed. You probably buy a little mutt.
Right. So the pet lemon law, there's certain
but I guess
criteria.
my point was people spend a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely.
Getting special dogs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then it's like, holy mackerel, what do I do now that this dog is like dragging one leg behind him?
Right. Well, so there's two types of breeders that the law recognizes. You have the backyard breeder and you have the pet dealer. And so what defines that as a pet dealer is someone who sells within a year's period of time either 2 litters or more than 20 puppies, whichever is greater. And so the distinction between them really applies to the purchaser, for an extended period of time after the purchase. Like if you buy a dog from a pet like a backyard breeder, and they follow the minimum criteria, which we'll go over in a second. After that sale, it doesn't matter what the vet finds there's anything wrong with that dog. The backyard breeder is not, is not held liable to you, but the pet dealer is. But the minimum, regardless if you sell a pet in the state of Florida, it has to have its shots. Like a dog needs its distemper, hepatitis, leptospirosis, parainfluenza, parvo. If it's over 3 months of age, rabies, bordetella, it needs to be dewormed for hookworms and roundworms, free of external parasites. For cats, it needs to be feline distemper, panleukopenia, calesi. If there's, they have to have a leukemia test, have to be free of intestinal parasites and external parasites. So those are the minimum requirements. Now, and also it has to be done by a veterinarian who's accredited by the FDA. So if someone just says, well, I gave the shots and I dewormed it, well, yeah, you can still do it, but then that seller is, kind of hung out if you wanted to take them, do something about it because they didn't protect themselves. So with a pet dealer, someone who, sells more than 2 litters or 20 pups in a year, if a veterinarian finds, within a year's period of time that dog has a congenital defect or hereditary defect or misrepresented that animal's sex or breed or whatnot, that you have, rights, you have things that you can do. You could either request to get a refund and give the dog back and get, reasonable vet reimbursements not to exceed the cost of the dog. You could keep the dog and get reimbursement of the cost and reasonable vet expenses, or they can replace it and then get reasonable reimbursement for vet. But you know, that's kind of hard because you already fell in love with the dog 2 hours after you got it, so you're not going to give it up generally. You're not going to give it back.
And then again, if you get a defective dog from someone, you know, are you going to go back and get another dog from them that might be defective as well? I mean,
exactly right, and that's a good point. So, but this lemon law is there to protect the consumer. You know, there's other laws that are out there too that people don't know about, like you can't travel, you can't cross state lines with a dog or a cat less than 8 weeks of age.
Really?
Yeah, and when you do travel, you have to have a health certificate for travel. That has to be by a USDA accredited veterinarian.
So if you take your dog on vacation out of state, you've got to have his papers with you?
Wow. I mean, it's one of those things that no one knows about.
I didn't know about it. I mean, we evacuated for a hurricane years ago.
So there would probably be some, exceptions that they would probably not come down hard on. But, there's a lot of people that travel with their dogs. So they don't get this done.
So there's a whole body of law out there to protect, the consumer, to protect the pets, and to maybe contain contagious diseases that might cross state lines.
Yeah, absolutely. But a lot of people don't know about it, and it's really not enforced all that much. But if it does get enforced, I mean, they could make you stop your vacation, go to a veterinarian, get a certificate. At 3 o'clock in the morning, that's not an easy chore to do.
That sounds like a Griswold vacation.
Yeah, so I mean, just because the law isn't necessarily enforced that often doesn't mean it's not a penalty. I mean, who'd have known they would check the pressure of the ball, right?
But if people want to learn more about it, yeah, right. If people want to learn more about it, you could just Google up pet lemon law.
You can, absolutely. Yep, pet lemon law. You can always call your veterinarian, and say, hey, listen, I'm going to travel with my dog. What do I need? Or, hey, I want to buy this dog from this person. What should they supply me before I buy this dog?
Wise advice as always. Dr. Stephen Favaloro from Forest Park Animal Hospital. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Joseph Milliron from Bay County Animal Services and his friend Zeke. Welcome back to the show, Joseph. Always good to see you, my friend.
It's good to be here.
And look at this guy. He is just like, hey, give me some love. All right, I see you, Zeke.
He's a playful dog.
He is a playful dog. Sunny sign up there, Zeke. How old a dog is Zeke, and how did Bay County Animal Services come into possession of such a fine animal?
Zeke is about 2 to 3 years old. Yeah. We picked him up as a stray on the 28th, so he's been with us for a few weeks now. He's a very fun-loving dog.
Yeah, he seems full of life, So he was running the streets, and you guys kind of rescued him from that. And that's just so, I don't know, when people let their animals run loose or they somehow get loose and stay out, it's just the worst case scenario for any animal is to be on their own on the street. Anything could happen to them. And I'm sure, you've probably come across some stories where dogs may get hit by cars or they get diseases, and God knows what can happen to them out there on the street. And thank you for what you do for taking care of these guys. Now, Zeke seems to be some sort of mixed breed, right?
He is. We have him as a Rottweiler mix, but honestly, I think he's more hound, maybe a little shepherd in him. He's a mutt, for sure. Yep.
And last week you told me that you name the dogs when you bring them in, and I guess you were at the end of the alphabet when you got to Zeke. Is that? And look at.
Yeah.
Come on, Zeke, try to liven up a little, will you? Jeez.
When you have 80 animals in your shelter, you start to run out of names.
Yeah, I guess you do. Yeah. Well, Zeke seems like a real friendly guy. Now, of course, Zeke will be neutered. And I guess he'll get the chip, just like all the animals do out there as well. And of course, all the shots. So he seems like a pretty healthy guy right now.
He is. Yeah. No, he looks like somebody's taking care of him before he escaped.
Before he escaped, and he's running away. So if anybody knows Zeke, they can come and get him back, I suppose. Or if you'd like to adopt Zeke, we can give you a call or come by and meet him.
Yep, we're on Bayline Drive. That's off of Highway 231. And it's a $25 adoption fee that covers the vaccinations, the neuter for him, and a microchip.
And sorry about the whole neutering thing there, Zeke, but it's got to be done. And quite honestly, it's probably the most humane thing, isn't it, Joseph, to have your animals spayed and neutered?
Yeah, I mean, it's healthy for the animals, and it helps keep the population down. So
it does. In this way,
when you have 80 plus animals in your shelter, there's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem. You got 80 poor little dogs, and I guess there's some cats mixed in there too that are are needing homes. So, and this guy, he would be I could see him with a couple of kids in the yard because he wants to rock and roll. This guy, I see you.
He'd be a good family dog.
He would be. So again, what's the phone number?
767-3333.
767-3333 if you want to adopt Zeke, or just come out and meet him sometime. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and thanks for what you do. And we'll see you next time. And always remember, spay and neuter your pets.